Narcissists try to hoover you, try to pull you back, try to get you stuck in a toxic relationship over and over and over again. You see, my wife and I haven't always been together. And there's oftentimes pieces that people assume inside of our story of like knowing what it is and not knowing what it is. But what I have you understand is my wife left. There's a period of time where she got to the place where she realized I wasn't changing, I wasn't growing, I wasn't developing. And so she packed up her daughter, packed up her stuff, and she got in the car and she drove out of state and stayed with her family and left. Inside of this, my first attempt was like, how do I actually get her back? Now, if you saw some of the videos earlier this week, like part of it was also me talking through, I didn't want her. I wanted her to leave. I was confessing to be able to get her to leave. I thought this would be kind of like my free break where I could actually go be with other people. I thought all this stuff could actually happen. And so here I am thinking about this, but then there's a piece of me that activates being like, wait a second, that doesn't look good if I don't try to get her back. So I need to try. And so I tried to hoover her. 2 weeks after I left, there was a couple things that happened. One was a phone call of me really just being like, hey, I think you need to come back. Like, I'm ready to work on this. Like, I'm better. I'm fixing this. Nothing had changed. Nothing was any different. I was still the same person. I was still messaging other women. I was still doing things on the side. There really wasn't a transformation. Then there was another piece that happened. That was me constructing and putting together a letter. And we got that here. And this letter is like 14 pages long. Right now it's highlighted and everything because my wife went through it. And this is full of pieces of manipulation. Like telling my wife one thing and then trying to manipulate it. Like telling her, hey, I was trying to do this, but because you rejected me. I was trying to open up, but because of this. It's interesting because I was looking through this. Like the first page like stops in and I'm talking about, hey, so I want to try to be vulnerable with you. Frankly, it scares me because being vulnerable with you is not an easy thing for me to do because you don't really know what me being vulnerable looks like. It doesn't look like me just spilling my guts and saying a bunch of things. It never has been like that. For me, being vulnerable had to do with me being willing to let someone push me to open up, but basically never was something that automatically opened up about things. It's really confusing already. But this whole piece of like, hey, you don't really know what vulnerability looks like. I'm choosing to be vulnerable. I'm choosing to give you this graciousness of me actually being vulnerable. And she's like, she wrote on the side, she was like, you've never really explained it. Like you've never been vulnerable. You've never been willing to be invulnerable. And then this piece of like, oh, I'm going to be vulnerable, but only when you push me. Like, because I still wanted that chase. I still wanted her to come after me. Like, I'll be vulnerable, but you need to come knocking on the door and be like, please be vulnerable with me. Then I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'll be vulnerable with you. But then when she would do that, when she would try to come after me being like, hey, what's going on? Like, you can be vulnerable with me. That's when I get upset at her. That's when I rage at her. I'm worried that I can't be vulnerable with you or transparent. When I have been in the past, a lot of times it prompted an action or a response from you that at times could shut me down. Do you see how I'm like blaming? When I've been vulnerable in the past, you've shut me down. When I've shown up in the past, when I've been honest in the past, you put me down. You did an action or a response. You did this. Remember? Narcissists always want to be able to put it on you. You did this. I was vulnerable. I was showing up so vulnerable, so wonderful, so nice, but then your actions, your responses made me shut down. See how manipulative that is? Like, I need you to hear this. And some of you might need to go back and read some of your text messages, like letters that you got from him, and to actually see this, that is actually breaking down this way. You aren't my safety. Yes, I know I'm not yours either. And becoming that is very hard with all the rejection and heartache that has happened over the years. Do you notice how I don't say the things I've done? Like, I'm not apologizing for the rejection, the heartache that I've caused. I just lay it out there. Rejection and heartache over the years. It's an implied ask that we all contributed. That's all it is. Like this whole piece, it's been hard for me to deal with this. Pity me. Struggle. I'm struggling so much. It's been hard dealing with all this rejection and heartache. What rejection and heartache did I have? I didn't care. Rejection and heartache that I caused, but I have to be able to lump that together so that I can be pitied as well. So this is my attempt to be open and vulnerable. I'm going to share a lot and try to open up a lot so you can respond or deal with it how you see fit. If you end up rejecting me for sharing that, that's fine too. I'm not saying you can only respond one way, but I'm going to open up some that I'm not going to apologize for that or the struggles I face. If you don't like that, then you don't have to be here. That being said, I'm not trying to piss you off with the intent that you will leave either. Like I said, it's not decisions, it's just my thoughts. Do with them what you will. That's how I start 14 pages. Narcissists will hoover and they'll try to manipulate you in multiple different ways. You need to understand it's very, very subtle in the communication to try to manipulate what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and what's going on. Narcissists get really good at saying a piece that feels like a compliment and then pulling it back. Saying a piece that feels like, hey, I acknowledge the stuff that I've done and all the heartache that's happened over the past couple of years. And you're like, wait a second, that doesn't actually acknowledge it. That doesn't actually accept it. That doesn't actually process it. There's no sorry. There's no apology. It's just manipulation. Like, it's just this process of trying to be able to control and manipulate the other person. So you have to think, like, where is this shown up in your life? Like, where is this shown up for you? Of how he's responded to you, how he's interacted with you, the letters that have gotten dropped off at your door because of the fact that you've got him blocked on everything. He's trying to suck you back in, and you read through it, and your heartstrings are pulled, and you're like, "Oh, he's showing up. I think he's being vulnerable. I think he's being honest. Maybe this will work now. Maybe he's changing." And all of a sudden, you're back in the relationship, and it's no different. Narcissists hoover you. They try to be able to use manipulative words, manipulative energy, thoughts, ideas, feelings to get you to a place where you respond the way that he wants you to respond, where you react the way that he wants you to react. You're going to see this happen over and over and over again, where he's going to try to manipulate and control you. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Because you can go in the camp of like, oh my gosh, he loves me, he cares about me because he's giving me this letter, he's giving me this communication, he's giving me this interaction. Like, he's actually showing up real and honest and vulnerable. Like, this is amazing. Or you can actually look at it for what it is, which is typically manipulation, because he's not actually apologizing. He's just putting it out there so that you can both agree that it's been toxic. He's not actually being honest with you. He's just putting it out there so you can both agree that, oh yeah, it hasn't actually been the best. Like, this whole letter that I wrote to my wife was manipulative in nature, 100% through and through, because I wasn't in a healed state. I was just spouting off, trying to keep her, trying to get her, trying to make sure she didn't leave so I feel better about myself. That was it. He's trying to do the same thing. He's trying to manipulate to make sure that he feels better about himself. He feels okay. He feels confident in who he is when he's not even showing up as a man. Where in your life are you falling prey to the letters, virtual, real thoughts, hopes, dreams, potential that you're believing about this person? Where are you seeing this happen? Where are you struggling with this? I want you to think and be careful about what you're going through today, about the Hoover that's happening, the Hoover that's going to happen, and how you're going to get sucked back into a toxic relationship. I want you to know that you can move forward, not having to fix him, not having to confront him, not having to work through some of those issues and questions, but you can actually stand up in your power and your confidence and your freedom, knowing who you are. If you're ready today to go from where you currently are, being trapped in this toxic relationship, being trapped with the rumination, trapped with the intrusive thoughts, trapped with the mindset that leaves you stuck, to freedom, then please reach out. Go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough today.